a story to tell, which is why that there was a story written about it. It was just not, it was a very interesting story.
And what does a brand stand for? And then you find the right balance between the two, saying that this is what my brand stands for, this is what I'm going to be solving for.
There is no external context for electric motorcycles. So if I view my problem statement as what would make electric motorcycles desirable, I would then be amiss because I'm only sort of asking half the question.
But what we do is identify who's going to buy it, see which platforms they're on, and then try and get a reach and frequency buy as we go.
We've curated a bunch of interesting panelists. I'll introduce them. But before I get into introducing the panelists, I just want to show you a small video, and this is a quiz. For those of you who answer, I'll have a special prize later on. Let me see. Can I have the first slide, please? A caveat here, if you guess, then I know your age. How many of you remember the character Zuzu? I know all your ages, huh? Somebody guessed. Which one? Vodafone. Nice. How many of you have heard this tagline, wherever you go, I follow? I know your age again. Any guesses? Any of you want to comment? Hutch. Is that brand, does it even exist? No, it's Vodafone now, right? Any differing views? Hutch, you all remember? How many of you don't remember Hutch? Okay, I know your age too now. So these impactful brands were actually built with a high recall value. Okay, while we wait for that to be fixed, how many of you recall, Mahesh sir, you have been here, I know you. Can you recall, other than Hutch and Vodafone, give me a brand which probably Manali does not remember. A brand that you recall from your experience and which impacted you.
Well, it did not impact me, but
You recall at least.
I recall in the same area
MTS from Russia, the telecom operator. I think if I remember, memory is right, it's a Russian telecom operator. Anyone else? Chris sir, because you probably with a little more of experience and knowledge, other than Infosys, any other brand that you think you can recall of? Ideally, yes. Ideally, which Manali should not know. Something which you recall, which is not there now, but something which you has a high impact.
JTM.
Sorry?
JTM.
Oh, the mobile VPL?
JTM.
JTM. That's a mobile company, no?
Yes.
JTM.
After
Okay.
that, it became Airtel.
Airtel, okay. So you? Something which I don't remember at least. I don't. Okay. So just to put the nutshell, put you in context, all of you recollected Hutch, all of you recollected Kingfisher. That I think most of us know because of airline. Yes, it's not there. But I want to introduce to you today the person who made that brand so strong, like Hutch, the Zuzu. And I said Zoo, I didn't say Vodafone, I said Zuzu. That character, right? That was very important. Not always do you remember the character in the ad. So you all recalled Vodafone. And wherever you go, I follow. You all remember the characters in the ad? The pug and the small boy. So the one who gave life to that ad is someone whom I want to invite on stage, and she is none other than Sneha from Nirvana Films. Please put your hand together for the great storyteller, please. I'll also call upon other panelists before I go and ask you more questions, Sneha. I want to introduce to you one of the legacy brands in the automotive. The top two, any guesses, please? Top two. Two-wheeler, sorry. I'll just make it simple. Two-wheeler. Bajaj. I have with me Priyanka from Bajaj Auto. She not only handles Bajaj as a group, but 5 different brands. She handles Triumph, Chetak, KTM, Pulsar, and the 5th one is commercial vehicles. She handles a lot, okay? I don't think I can have a better panelist with so many, one panel, one person with 5 different brand topics. And then I have a very young brand, which we all probably know about in the superbike, EV. Which is the brand that comes to you? Superbike. Ultraviolette. I have the head of marketing for Ultraviolette, Abhinav, also with us today. Welcome, Abhinav. And then we also have the agency who takes all of these brand communications and marketing to all of us. The man who is responsible that we are bombarded with all these conversations and storytelling in different platforms, and that's none other than Benedict. We call him Ben. Don't get surprised, he's a good Indian. He's been in India for 15 years. Yes, please. He's been in India for 15 years, and you stand next to him. I was just speaking to him earlier in the afternoon, and then I was telling him something, and he's like, TK. So he's the one who took butter chicken masala to UK, right?
I
No.
don't think so, anyway.
You didn't brand that? No. Okay, fair. Okay, so we have all spectrum of people in this audience, in this panel, who will talk about storytelling, Nirvana, and we have a legacy brand like Bajaj, and then we have a young brand like Ultraviolette, and then somebody who takes all of this to the masses. So I'll start with you, Sneha, to Vodafone, Hutch. That's such a strong brand. Wherever you go, I follow. I think that's bigger and popular than even Nirvana. How is that you create such impactful stories?
Okay, so it's not just us, Nirvana, but there are many, many sort of players in that journey. So any brand would have an advertising agency, and the advertising agency then comes up with the idea. Once there's a buy-in, then we're at the bottom end of the food chain. They come to us to make that one piece of film that they want made, which will then go out to others, for them to view. But in that journey, Hutch was a brand that we did several decades ago, the Boy Dog campaign, and then we did the Zuzus after. So I think as brands, what we have to remember is, what we make is testament to who we are, and how we choose to arrive at the communication that we want to sort of focus on is not like someone wakes up in a dream and says, okay, you know what, I'm going to say this. There is a process, there's a framework, and there are people who involved who ideate, who decide, who are very clear about who they are and therefore what they want to say. So I think the parallels are in life, how I present myself is also how you would present a brand. It's actually very similar. It's not rocket science. So yeah, there's a whole journey, and in hindsight, we have the advantage of saying this worked, that didn't work, but at the time when you're doing something, you really never know where it's going. You just have to sort of take a punt. But most important is that the ingredients that go into making any dish delicious are very important. And if you carefully choose what goes in, as a good chef, you're likely to create a really tasty dish that becomes memorable, and you will always go back to that feeling.
So I remember I've read in your profile that you wrote a book on this, right? So is it because they recognize Nirvana? What went into writing that book? Because that's also a brand storytelling that you did.
Well, it was a story as part of a book. It was a dog story, and it was the story of Chica, who was the face of, the pug in the film. There was a story to tell, which is why there was a story written about it. It was just not, it was a very interesting story.
Was it something to do with Prakash? Because I've heard somewhere it's Prakash Verma's personal experience, him with the dog. No? Am I wrong?
No.
Okay.
It was the hunt
for I'm correcting it for the audience if we got all wrong.
It was the hunt for the right dog for the film.
Okay.
Yeah, and what we went through while finding the dog. Because earlier what we had in the film was a golden retriever, and then when we came in, we sort of pitched the idea of doing a fox terrier, And then we ended up with a pug. And most people thought at that time that the pug was a very ugly looking dog. But it
But
worked.
because of that ad, the prices of the pug was so high after that.
That's right.
You know, the cost of the pugs was just phenomenal, right? You actually influenced another sector altogether.
We should have invested in pugs then.
Before we go into, you recently conceived an ad. So just help me, both of you. What goes into the idea, the thought, the problem statement before even Nirvana or the storytellers come in? What actually happens in your, in your rooms, in your marketing conversations? Maybe, we can start with you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to just draw in and continue from what Sneha has said, that there is the right ingredients that come in. What goes into selecting the right ingredients, because those ingredients actually come from the brand people to then down the food chain of people who are actually going to create it. It comes from human truth and lots of customer listening. Trying to understand what is the problem that my brand is going to solve for, and what does a brand stand for. And then you find the right balance between the two, saying that this is what my brand stands for, this is what I'm going to be solving for the customer, and this is where I am. And then that is the ingredient that goes into as a input. And that input is then beautifully weaved into a good story to bring the right balance. And that is where successful stories actually evolve and very good looking ads actually come out. So in one line, I would say it is human truth and the problem that the brand is going to solve for the customer.
So, so the problem statement is generally provided by the sales. Is that an influence, or is it a longer vision than the shorter sales targets, or this year's? Where is it? Where do you conceive this problem? How does the problem statement come to you?
I wouldn't talk for other brands. I can talk of how we work on this brand. As we do a lot of customer emotion. We listen to the customer, we meet the customer, we talk to our sales guys, we spend time at the sales POCs to see what is it that people are asking, why is it that people are not buying, why is it that people are buying, and there's whole loads of data that gets inputted into the system. We sit down and we look at that data, try to understand what is it that is not making the cut, why is somebody not buying. We delve more on why somebody is not bought rather than why somebody is bought. Okay, and from there germinates the idea of what is the problem that I need to solve so that this set of people in future buy me.
Fair. You used very interesting word called data, which is not usually spoken, but I will come back to you. How do you see this crafting of the problem statement?
So I'm going to build on what Priyanka said, and I'm going to use customer insights as the base on which to build the answer to this question. But I'm going to qualify that with context, and that context could be competitive or it could be internal. For example, at Ultraviolette, there is no external context for electric motorcycles. So if I view my problem statement as what would make electric motorcycles desirable, I would then be amiss because I'm only sort of asking half the question. Because the electric motorcycle is also a motorcycle. So if I start focusing on only what I'm hearing, which is range anxiety and charging problems and infrastructure hasn't matured, etc., then chances are that I'll be stuck in stasis with no real answer until technology matures or infra catches up. So then I switch to internal context, which is that we are a motorcycling company and we want to excite people about design, tech, and performance. And within that ambit, can I stay true to what I thought that I'm going to build, which is a very exciting package on two wheels? So then I take that internal context, because there is no external context, and I build customer insight that actually there is an audience today for exciting machines. And there is an audience that is looking for something different, even in the humdrum traffic of our cities like Bangalore, or the odd weekend getaway. And that's really where we end up at the problem statement to give to talented and very, very experienced people like Sneha.
So here now, I want Sneha, you want to come. So you recently got a problem statement from Priyanka about Chetak, right? You recently did a beautiful ad. How did it come to you, and how did you look at it? Because there are only 5 things that can happen in an EV at the end of the day. How did you craft that? And I mean, I'll play that video if it's ready. Is that ready? Okay, but please give us the background before we show the crowd.
Yeah, once again, it's a team. So Bajaj works with Ogilvy, who is their advertising agency, and there's a creative team that toils and works very closely with them on how they want to pitch themselves as a brand. Chetak is a legacy brand, and this is a whole new spin on what they have been doing for years. And so they come from pedigree. So when they approach people like us to make a film, there is already an idea in place. And then what we do as filmmakers is breathe life into what is written on paper, right? And that breathing life is about the craft of filmmaking. So the framework really is the structure of how do you tell this story most effectively, where do you start, what's the middle, what's the end, and then you have all the sanitizing to do, which is you have to still, show product benefit, you have to show what the bike is capable of doing, durability. There's so many factors, right? Space, all of that. So when you have, like she said, all the problems to solve, what do? You create a world where you can showcase these problems without it being a hard sell. How do you make it interesting for the viewer, where you have a narrative that unfolds, and the way that it's told, you draw the viewer in, they become part of your world, and then you sort of unleash the little bits that they get to watch, and subliminally they realize that, oh, this is a bike that can do this, and this is a bike that can do that, and all of it, right? So that's a clever way of narrating a story. So yeah, so we come in at a point when they already know what they want to do with their brand, where they want the message to land. We help them land that message effectively, and we do work with constraints of time and all of that. But this is one campaign that we're very proud of, so I think you should see it, and then we can discuss it.
Yeah. Can we play the video, please? The new ad?
No, this is the Hutch.
Not the Hutch, please. The last video on the same.
Pero fue culpa de mi loco corazón. Mi loco corazón. Mi loco corazón. Pero fue de repente un amanecillo. Mi loco corazón. Pero fue. Mi loco corazón. Pero fue de repente un amanecillo. Mi loco corazón. Pero fue. Mi loco corazón. Pero fue.
This is the rescue team. Any survivor out there? This is the rescue team. Wave your arms. Signal with anything you have. We're here to help. Repeat, we're here to help.
Mi loco corazón. Mi loco corazón. Mi loco corazón.
Good stuff. I don't know how many of you caught the attributes of the vehicle in that ad. Can any of you show, tell me please, sir. Durability. Where did you catch that in the ad? Okay, anybody else? Sorry? Ruggedness, why? Okay, perfect. Anything else? Waterproof. Map works in remote location. That's a challenge for you. Long range, storage space because of the coconuts. So what was these the statements that was given to you, or how did you craft this into such a beautiful messaging?
Well, it's clearly working because
I was just testing whether you did a good job.
yeah, this was very much part of the brief, and we found ways to sort of integrate that into the story.
I'll just add in here. So before this film was released, about close to a year back, we did one more film, which had a small girl, a little girl with her family, and similar attributes of her hitting the bike, showing that the bike is durable and a complete life-proof package that anybody can get. From there, in a year, we've segued into deciding where we really want to place our brand and how we want to see it. We wanted to become a little more youthful while retaining the whole legacy and the life-proof aspect of it, and place ourselves as a fun but a serious legacy brand that comes in. This particular video is created as a full funnel video where I can use aspects of this video entirety to bring people into the fold at an awareness level, move people closer to consideration in their consideration journey, where somebody is thinking about buying an EV, push them towards making a decision, and finally at the bottom of the funnel, trying to push them to buying as well. So this film is doing everything through the funnel, and that was the core that we had in our mind. But in the brief, what went is that we want to appeal to younger audiences as well, because that is the audience that will eventually mature to becoming younger parents. So the adoption has to happen at that level. Plus, we wanted to play the entire legacy piece, which draws in and tells that the whole brand is life-proof.
Any guesses where this was shot? Because we can validate. Any guesses where this ad was shot?
No, some secrets we can't reveal.
Okay, you don't have to validate the answers, but anyone, any guesses? Sorry? Andaman? I'm not saying yes or no, okay. Huh? Lakshadweep? Okay, I'm proud of India. I'm not asking anymore. Now, I want to come quickly in the interest of time. Ben, you are the one who's now made sure these ads have reached all of us, right? How did you achieve, or what is that strategy that you have given to take Priyanka's and Sneha's, story into the mass?
So, as we said, it's a full funnel approach, right? So, but
Ben, just to let you know, Ethinos works with Priyanka, Bajaj to take this ad into the market. So that's why we have the authentic answers on this panel.
Yeah. So, everything starts with a bit of data, actually. First of all, we need to identify who is most likely to buy this product. We don't sort of splash it everywhere, although we do quite a lot of reach sort of mechanisms as well. But what we do is identify who's going to buy it, see which platforms they're on, and then try and get a reach and frequency buy as we go. In this instance, we went to places like Hotstar, to Sony Live, to YouTube, and you do the main brand film out there to get the brand out there. But once you've actually got the person to watch the video, you're then looking at who's watched it, who's responded to it, and then trying to get secondary, tertiary messages. The best thing about this video, which we really like, is the fact that you have these little videos within it. Like if I'm trying to sell to someone who's driving over potholes in Mumbai, I've got a snippet of video which we can cut, which we can then relate to that person driving over potholes in Mumbai. Or if there's a monsoon, it's waterproof, it's electric. We can have secondary narratives which are cut from this main film, which we then start to use to build frequency with the main film. So once we know someone's seen the video, we can then remarket to them. And that could be anywhere. That could be on your Instagram, that could be on Facebook, that could be on YouTube. But we hit you then with the secondary, tertiary messages. And when we know that you've shown a lot of interest, like you've seen the main brand film, you've seen the secondary, tertiary messages, we can then come back with a price and say, hey, by the way, this is the price. You can buy it here. Here's your local dealer. Go and get it. So the layering of the messaging goes from the brand communication at the top, which will be more massy, but as you start seeing the behavior of people, you then start feeding them smaller stories, which you then lead into a conversion path. And then the whole thing's full funnel. You can see how many people you've reached at the top, how many people you've engaged in the middle, and then ultimately how many test drives you're driving, how many, and what's the ROI that you get at the end of it. And make sure that whole thing is built in one seamless sort of trajectory. And we love this film, by the way, because it has those abilities for us to cut it. Obviously, it's a very long film to start with, but it's got a lot of intersects that we can work with to get very specific messages to people.
Yeah, we have shorter films designed just for the features. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of a right brief coming into the team, because we've done films in the past as well where we were not really digitally oriented. That's also very important for brands to understand that, you know, you have to get digitally oriented so that at every stage you're thinking for the audiences eventually how you use it, because these are expensive films. You can't keep making them again and again. So at the briefing stage, when you are working with partners, you need to give them the right brief saying that, you know, I do want to use it in different stages. And
Do
as
you
we
also give the budget?
Like I said earlier, there's some secrets we don't.
So that Sneha will not go beyond.
None of us will.
But just to add to the brief, right? A good brief always, almost likely, will develop into a good idea from the briefing of why you want to do something. So that brief is a very, very important part of, from a client's perspective, to get right. Because it's like running a relay race, and you know you have to pass the baton on to the right guy in the team, and whoever wins the race for you has to know where you started and why you started and what speed and what you want to deliver. So it's.
So Priyanka, he says, he talks about all the funnel. He makes that funnel for you, top funnel, mid funnel, and bottom. How do you track the? You said, you know, data. Do you have some tools? Are there, you know, that you're tracking on a daily, weekly, or how is this? You manage the agency.
I'll pick it up. So you've got to think about different touch points, right? So if I need to get a brand message to you, you're not going to buy the product there and then. It's not that I'm going to suddenly wake up and go and buy a scooter. That's not going to happen. What we need to look at is what is a measure of success. So if you watch my video and you watch that video in its entirety, and maybe you've done that 3 or 4 times, I know that you've sat in front of my brand, you've got my brand message across. Now, whether you do something post that, we can then look at secondary, tertiary sort of measurements. But from a brand standpoint, have I reached X number of people with X frequency and made sure that I've got that level of engagement with those people? And that would be the sort of the top. The middle bit would then be, can I get them into my website? Can I get them to drop a lead? Can I get them to show some sort of inquiry, some sort of interest? And then the final point is obviously ROI, selling and conversion in that sense. So those measurement points are there all the way in the funnel, but it's important that you don't mix them. You can't say I'm doing branding and expect direct sale coming. Because actually branding, I might brand to you today, but 2 weeks later you might think, oh, I want to go and do a test ride. Then you'll be in my mid-funnel, and then another 3 weeks later you're going, I've got the money now, I've just been paid, I'll go and buy. And those 3 points are very different points in time, and you can't really measure them like as a direct response to branding in that sense. So it's important you break it.
Perfect.
Sorry, I'm going to just add a small piece. We have a fairly evolved dashboard that we work with along with Ethinos, where we can actually measure of success from top to mid, and at the bottom we definitely have a end goal till the sales.
Fair.
So we know exactly how much sale has happened because of activities that we've collectively done, or what is the brand movement that has happened. Because today...
I remember in Hanoi you mentioned about the brand piece relating it to the sales ROI. So
correct. So it's a brand search index that when we look at that, whenever we are doing some top funnel activities. Now, top funnel activities not necessarily is a digital film. It could be a newspaper ad. It could be a television. It could be on-ground activity. It could be anything which the brand is putting out there. And how does it eventually, boil down to people's inquisitiveness or inquiry or a search that they do? Because 90% of Indians actually come back to Google and search. So that's how
But now with AI coming in, people are, that's also changing. People are
Of
searching.
course, that is changing, but that's for a different day, because then it'll
Fair.
take up most of your panel time. But
Fair,
having
you're
said
right.
that, yes.
Sure. Abhinav, as a young brand, sometimes there's a conversation that's about the founder's personal brand is equally important to build the brand versus a legacy brands, all of that. Where do you see that coming into play?
Well, definitely helps if the two are in sync. Of course, you've got to preempt to watch to what percentage are you going to let the personal brand, lead the organization brand or vice versa. I think that's a call to be taken individually for each organization and each founder, co-founder. At Ultraviolette, I think both Narayan and Neeraj, they've got coherence in vision. They've worked together for a long time.
But there are two founders.
Yeah.
So most of us know only Narayan as a founder. Of course, in the space we'll know Neeraj, but otherwise it's mostly Narayan's face around. So how that play? Do you have a challenge in play?
Not at all. In fact, I think they complement each other very well. Narayan brings design nuance, and Neeraj brings tech insight. So they complement each other very well. I think it goes back to their days in school. So they've been working together for 20 plus years. So I think that it holds them in good strength. And for anything else, you'll have to ask them directly.
I would put you on a spot. Okay, one big question sometimes as a marketer which comes to me is, Martin, why don't you do some viral content? Virality is what we want. Why isn't our ad? We spend so much of money. Why is it not creating a virality? Now, I'm sure you guys have been asked this question. I don't know. I'll just put it on this question at the right of the center. Who wants to pick it up and answer this question? Because I don't know what's the right answer.
Let me go first, because virality is something that we've discussed. But I think we go to sort of another pivot, which is what will make it stick. Okay, and this is, I think, the question that we choose to answer inside Ultraviolette. I think everyone has heard of the Tesseract.
Yeah, that's a good segue.
Yeah.
Tesseract had
the Tesseract. I can talk about various aspects, starting from the name itself. A lot of people think that we took that name from Marvel, maybe somebody from the Transformers universe. Any fanboys out here? But actually, the Tesseract is a geometric term. It's a four-dimensional sort of geometrical object, and we picked it and we workshopped a bunch of names to make sure that everyone can pronounce it. So stuff like that. Because if you're going to make your product or your brand sound really exotic, but no one can sort of pronounce it, then it's sort of, so little things like that. But if I come back to the original question of what will it make it stick, I will go to what Ben was talking about, about having, this approach where you have within the same piece of communication, something for everyone through the funnel. And I want to actually extrapolate that, and I want to talk about projects in general. So the success of the Tesseract actually has its roots in the F-77. It has its roots in the F-77 Mark II and how it was received. But more importantly, and actually possibly the most importantly, it has its roots in the F-99 project, which is only known to the purist. Anyone who's followed us very, very closely know that a lot of effort and energy and money went into making the fastest automobile India has ever made. And I think that gave people a reason to believe. There are, of course, OEMs and across categories, not just auto, who are focused on reasons to buy. And we are in the festive season, and we should be focused on reasons to buy. But if you don't have a reason to believe, the reasons to buy, I think the money will have to work much harder to, stick. And I think when it comes to virality, the question we choose to answer is what makes it stick. And we went after the records with a very, very clear mandate that this will be the reason to believe that Ultraviolette's going to be, your brand of choice, should be in your consideration set. And why don't you go take a test ride? So all of that funneled into the success of Tesseract.
One more, you can, and then I'll open up for the audience.
Honestly, if I may, I think it's a very lazy question.
I think you should answer it once more.
I mean, what makes something go viral is a very lazy question, because there is no answer to that. There is no way to know what will tick, what will not, what will stick, what will not. The only thing you can do as a brand is to make sure that, like I said earlier, all the ingredients are in its place. The intent for what you set out to do is in its place. That you collaborate with the right people to come on board, so you get the best minds coming together to be able to pull something off for you on your behalf, because that's the other thing, you can't do everything. You can design a bike, but you may not be able to sell it. And I think you have to understand that very clearly. So there are different people with different skill sets that you need, as you know, have to come on board. And there is a big trust deficit in our world, but that is really the most important ingredient. So I think when all of these fall into place, and I think they come together, there is a very good chance that something will stick and something will work. And we've seen that in 25 years of doing ad films as a production company. I can say that it starts with great leadership. It starts with good vision. It starts with trying to solve a problem, with collaborating with the right people, and then making sure that whatever that project needs, you're 100% in. And then the outcome is, of course, not in your control.
Perfect. I'll probably, in the interest of time, I'll throw it up for audience if you want to ask any questions, because I have another 2 questions if I can ask, but otherwise, before that, I'll ask the audience if you want to ask questions, sir, please. Can we have a mic? Anyone else? This side, you have? Okay, Vibin has. Please.
Firstly, thank you so much. It's very exciting to have this panel. My question is probably to Priyanka. Very nice talk. So you mentioned about the human truth, and everything is in the mind when it comes to marketing and increasing the value to selling and so on. So how do you get down to the truth between what is engineered, what is in the ad, and what people are buying?
Thank you for the question. So this basically goes back to your customer inciting. A lot of times when you meet customers, the work that we do is we just don't meet one person. So, it's not like a tick mark item that I just go meet one person. It's a constant activity that we as marketeers have to keep doing, where we keep meeting people and read between the lines. Okay, so if a person is saying something, okay, that person may not be able to articulate the real problem, but we as marketeers have to actually understand what is he saying between the lines. I mean, are you married? Okay, so when your wife is angry with you, okay, and she just shrugs, kuch nahi hua. So that is the time when you actually try and read between the lines. It's something like that for us, where we have to actually, get to the pulse of what the person is saying and how is he saying it. And that's a very challenging thing. So yes, getting to the human truth is a very challenging thing, and it cannot be done by one person. And hence you have multiple people who go out, meet everyone, come into a room, discuss what their insight is and what their customer is saying and what my customer is saying, and all that collectively put down on a paper. Then from there, the whole concept of what possibly is his problem statement that we can solve comes out. So it's not like a black and white or a yes or no or a very simple approach to understanding what the human truth about a brand is.
When you want to ask.
I hope I answered it.
My question is to Sneha. Okay. I think I'll come there. So Sneha, my question is more from the creative side. How do you bring in these kind of small details into the craft of filmmaking? I'll take 2 instances from your film itself. One is the Camry ice cream ad that you did, where love has many flavors. So the scene is of Fahad actually having upset with Nazria, and they're upset, and he goes to the fridge, takes ice cream, and he's going to his room. But on the way, he picks one spoon, and then he picks the second spoon. Many of them have not noticed it, but when I noticed it, I was telling people, hey, did you see that he picked 2 spoons? Although he's upset, he picked 2 spoons to go. Even in the Chetak film, there are like smaller wooden logs which is added as obstacles, right? And these are very subtle inclusion in visuals. How do you build these kind of small details into filmmaking?
It's the love for film as a medium, I think, 1. 2 is a lot of film is very nuanced because layering, I mean, as in communication, like she said, what you hear is one thing, but what you also don't hear and what you don't see is another. So to pick on those little things is what good filmmakers are supposed to do. So you learn from people behavior, so I think one question we ask ourselves a lot is, what is not in your face? And how can that communicate? So thank you for picking that up, Vibin, because even if one person in the room picks it up, I think it's validation for what we're trying to put into the narrative. In ad filmmaking, we have a very limited time, so we don't have the sort of capacity to build character, arc, narrative, all of that, unlike in feature. So whatever we can cram into those 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, we've done a Facebook project for 10 seconds, and it lands a message very interestingly. But that's the thing, it's very layered, and the more nuances there are, somebody's likely to pick it up. And whether you realize it or not, at a subliminal level, it is working on your mind. You sort of put all of this together, and that makes up the whole. So one is, at one level, there's the utility, functionality, there's the beauty and the aesthetic, but all of it coming together makes it a wholesome piece. And I think that's what every filmmaker, writer, any creative person is constantly striving to do.
I don't know if I have time.
So can I just add one point to it?
I think, Priyanka, we are running on short. We'll just quickly get his question. Loudly, fast.
Yes, very much.
I have a question for Abhinav from Automotive. We know that the premium market with respect to Duke 390, which you guys are working on, the market of that itself is quite low. Especially electric, it's very, very much low. So what gave the confidence among you guys to basically go into this market and then venture into this, because highly niche market?
I'm paraphrasing for my co-founders here. I mean, the co-founders of Ultraviolette, my bosses. But I think the vision is to have India known for world-leading design tech and performance. And that's where they started from. So anything that they will do or their teams will to enable that vision is something that's pretty much baked into the DNA of the company. So then the question isn't about how big the market is today, but how much of a bite Ultraviolette can take out of it tomorrow, starting with the segments that we're competing in today. It's a very conscious decision that we've started with the F77 as our first product. The X47, which has just been launched a few weeks ago, could have very well easily been a first product in any other context. But there are very deliberate choices that we went F77, F99, Tesseract Shockwave, and X47. So just that product portfolio itself will tell you that we are building for the world here in India. So you took an example, it's a storied brand. They derive their equity from competing at the upper echelons of motorsport, at MotoGP, etc. So I go back to what would make somebody who's in the market today for a performance motorcycle consider us. And that reason to believe is, of course, what you see, which is it's a great-looking bike. Even if we say so ourselves, it's very subjective, looks are very subjective. But what is not subjective is that today we build or have built India's fastest, not just two-wheeler, but automobile. So hopefully that will give you and everybody else who's in the market a little bit more confidence in considering Ultraviolette. And when you start considering Ultraviolette, you'll maybe talk to your friends about it. And then your friends will tell you, you know what, young company, great energy, check them out. And maybe then you'll walk in for a test ride. And then the product will do its job. So it all sort of ties back together into why we started. And I'm once again paraphrasing for our co-founders, that I think there's a line that Narayan likes to use a lot, that no more looking to the east or the west. It's time for India to take pole position. And I'm borrowing that line from him, because in this context, this question, I can think of no better line to encompass this.
I think that's a phenomenal line to end this panel discussion. I thank you all for this beautiful time that you all gave this summit. I know you flew in from Pune, and Ben, you also flew in from Mumbai, Mumbai. Thanks, Abhinav and Sneha, for picking my call. I know it was on a Saturday. I bumped into you. Thank you so much, Abhinav. And thank you guys. I know this conversation can go on and on like this. It's a very engaging conversation. We all want to learn more. Unfortunately, we're running short of time. Thank you so much for being a great audience, and thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.